Hello, everybody. Hello, leaders. I hope you guys are keeping well and refreshed and strong. I haven't done a video in a while, and I thought, what a great opportunity right now to have a quick dose of a leadership tip that I want to bring to us today. And that is one from John Maxwell, that he talks about a quality of leadership called responsibility. That's right, responsibility. It's not an exciting term, it's not an exciting thought when we think about leadership, but responsibility is key as leaders. It's so important for us. The buck stops with the leader. That's where it is. And we see a great example of a leader not taking responsibility in the scriptures. His name is Pontius Pilate, and yes, he is the one who ultimately crucified Jesus. You see, Jesus was brought before the Jewish people, before the leaders of the Jewish people, and they wanted to get rid of him. They wanted to execute him because he was causing them so much trouble. And so they take him to Pontius Pilate, and they demand that he is crucified. And Pontius Pilate has this idea. He thinks, okay, it's clear that Jesus is innocent. It is clear that they've only handed him over to him because of their envy of the following he had been developing. And so what he does is he says to the crowd, okay, I will release to you a prisoner. I can either release Barabbas, and he's a terrible person, or I can release to you Jesus, who's an innocent person. And ultimately they choose to release Barabbas. And Jesus now stands condemned. And Pontius Pilate has this big decision to make. Does he take responsibility over this decision to make a right decision? Or does he go along with the crowd? And so what we see him actually do is he washes his hands publicly as a symbol of saying, I am free of guilt over this man's death. Do with him what you like. But actually, it's Pontius Pilate's soldiers who end up crucifying him. And so he's saying, I leave it over to you. Whatever you want to do, that's fine. We know that Pontius Pilate would have been fearing the fact that there were so many riots happening in Israel, that more riots could possibly have led to him being taken off from his stand of leadership. And so for him, it was easier just to let it go. Right? Let someone else deal with the issue. Let someone else take responsibility over these actions. The truth is, if we don't take responsibility, we cannot bring change. And change is the only way to growth. You don't grow without changing. And we often resist change. And people want to make sure that they keep things the same. And so if we don't take responsibility, we cannot change anything. The same way is that if we don't take responsibility and we don't let things change and we don't fight for things and take responsibility over them, chaos reigns when leaders don't take responsibility. Chaos happened that day. Jesus was crucified by a mob. Chaos reigns when we don't take responsibility, because then there's a lack of leadership and everyone does what they want and everyone does what they feel to be right, not necessarily actually being right. And so I want us to be leaders who take responsibility over the people that we lead, that we take responsibility for helping them to develop a God-honoring life, a healthy, flourishing life, to see them continue to grow in the good news of Jesus, that we would be leaders who would build the church of Jesus Christ and take responsibility over the group that we have. So there are three things that I just want to share and teach out of this story on taking responsibility. The first thing is, we need character to withstand adversity. Pontius Pilate didn't have the character to withstand adversity. He buckled. He didn't want to take responsibility and to actually let Jesus go free, as he knew was the right decision, because the adversity that was standing ahead of him, because they were calling him out to say that if you declare that Jesus is actually King of the Jews, you stand against Caesar. So he didn't want to face the external pressures. You see, he didn't have the character internally to face the adversity externally. You and I as leaders need to have a strong conviction to say we're willing to battle adversity in order for the right things to come about. We would develop character on the inside, because adversity always comes to leaders. It comes to all people, but leaders especially. And if we're strong enough, we can take responsibility, make the right decisions, and grow as a result. The second thing is that we see Pontius Pilate was going with the flow to make everyone happy. You know what? The worst thing that we can do as leaders, and I've learned in my personal leadership journey, is that if we want to make a decision to make everybody happy, we ultimately make nobody happy. In fact, we choose not to change. Because everyone is happy with the status quo. Everyone wants things to stay the same, but growth comes from change. Leaders need to take responsibility for things to change. And if we just want to go through the motions, go with the flow, like Pontius Pilate washing his hands, hey, whatever you guys want to do is what we're going to do. That doesn't change, that doesn't grow, and that's not leadership. Leaders have to make difficult decisions, and some people are always going to be upset about it. But that's why we need leaders in our life, to help us and to direct us and to take us to new places. The third thing is that Pontius Pilate had a fear of the consequences, or a fear of loss. He chose what's convenient over what's right. It was right to let Jesus go, but it was convenient for his political position to let the Jewish leaders do what they wanted with Jesus. Again, it could have been that Caesar or the regional leaders or the oversight would have said, you know what, why are all these uprisings happening in your leadership? Are you not able to take care of it? Or cause even greater division between Rome and Israel. Fear of him losing his place of power, fear of him losing his image, losing control over the region. All of these fears dictated his decisions. So if we have fear of loss or consequence, we're never going to be able to take responsibility. Taking responsibility means, you know what, I know that there's going to be some losses, but the gains are more important than the losses. What we will become is more important than what we are right now. Choosing what's right over what's convenient will produce the right kind of growth. Well, I hope this has been helpful to you. Thanks for joining me for another leadership tip. Let's be leaders who can take responsibility, because if we take responsibility, things can change, we can make a difference, and ultimately we will see things grow. God bless you. Have an awesome time.